Hello, welcome to my another video of my ramblings about movies. And I just got back from seeing The Man of Steel. Before I go into reviewing the movie spoiler free, I just want to say I love it. Okay, so let's get that out of the way so there's no you don't have to wait 10 minutes to hear that I like it. But before I talk about the movie in details, I must say that I am not a big Superman fan. I have mentioned this before in maybe a few other videos that I appreciate Superman, the character, in the history of comic books as far as his introduction of the superhero genre and what it meant for the genre and the medium. You know, all the superheroes like Batman and Wonder Woman and all the Golden Age characters that was created after he was introduced and loved. It opened up the whole genre to what we know today. So in that sense, I love Superman. But as far as the comic book is concerned, I must say that I was never a fan. I have a few Superman comic books, mostly because Neal Adams art was involved in them, and you know, I'm a big fan of Neal Adams. But outside of Neal Adams involvement, I really never had the desire to collect any Superman titles like Action Comics or Superman. I have read quite a few here and there over the years, and I just never like the way he is in comic books. Okay, I personally don't like the supporting cast either. I didn't care for Lois Lane, never liked her, or Jimmy Olsen. I don't think I would have bought any Jimmy Olsen if it wasn't for Jack Kirby drawing some issues and Neal Adams doing some covers. That is about the extent of Jimmy Olsen books that I collect. But so over the years, when I started collecting comic book in 1981, I didn't care to buy any Superman comic books. Part of it too is because when you have a hero that is so powerful like Superman, like Superman, it's tough to find a worthy adversary that can be great, that make the hero great. For example, when you look at Batman, what you know what make Batman great is also some of his villain was great, as far as like the Joker. It's a famous line in the movie. You need me. Just as much as I need you. The Joker was great. Even Bane, Ra's al Ghul. There's a lot of characters, villain in the Batman comic books that I enjoy. I love Man-Bat. That has always been one of the characters that I wish they can figure out how to work into the big screen somehow. But I can go on and name quite a few other ones. Even the hokey one like the Riddler or the Penguin. The Penguin probably is the worst of his big villain, but in the end, Batman had quite a few great villain that was worthy to make a storyline good or great. And when it comes down to and if you take that story, that kind of dynamic over to other titles like Fantastic Four, Of course, you have the great Doctor Doom. You know, you have the great Galactus. There's a lot. You know, what make a superhero interesting or great is that they are involved into conflict with some villains, adversary that are great and have their own reason why they want to do what they want to do. So it's, you know, it's always been a theme of mine that it's hard to build up a great superheroes without creating a worthy villain. And to me, that's what has always been wrong with Superman. I'm sure there's many people that would disagree with me that love Superman and love Lex Luthor. I don't like Lex Luthor. Couldn't stand it. Um, that's, you know, I was never a big fan of Lex Luthor. I understand why they do what they did. As far as, you know, you have the strongest, most powerful man. You can't possibly come up with a villain that try to match him up with strength, but with strength. So you're trying to create a villain that is more brainy and trying to outwit him. I understand all that, okay? But that does not mean I had to like it. If you all didn't know, when Superman was first created, he was not this powerful. The problem with DC is that, you know, at first, you know, he was just strong enough to leap over tall building. You know, he didn't have laser beam eyes. He didn't have this flying ability, all that stuff. So I blame on DC creators over the years to amp up his power and thus making him godlike. And so as far as a comic book, the character, I just didn't like the whole Clark Kent, Superman. I didn't like the relationship with his cast of characters like Lois Lane or Jimmy Olsen, all that stuff. So in the end, that's what failed me as a character, as far as the comic books. And then when you go into the movies, now the original Superman the movie came out in 1978. So I did not see it until 83 or so. I was able to catch it on cable TV at a friend's house in 83, late 83, almost 84. So I watched it on HBO, and it was underwhelming. I know a lot of people love Christopher Reeve. Over the past 30 years, I hear so many compliments on how great he was as Superman, and on and on and on, and he was okay. Sure, he has a look of Superman. He was born with that look, to look like Superman. But as far as Superman 1, 2, and 3, I did not like those movies. They were okay enough for me to watch it once, but number 2 was probably the best one of the 3. And I just didn't care for that portrait of Superman, because it's like the comic books that I didn't care for. It was kind of campy. Superman was kind of like plastic-like with very little emotion, and it was, for some people, maybe that was fun, and that's the common complaint that I read since I saw the movie 3 hours ago. I start to read some of the online complaints, and a lot of people complain that this is not the Superman that they know or like or grow up with. Well, guess what? I didn't like the Superman I grew up with, so I welcome the different Superman. That being said, we can move on to the review of Man of Steel. So, as I mentioned in previous videos, I am kind of worried about David Goyer and his writing style. You know, I mean, Dark Knight was okay and good, between okay and good. The trilogy of Batman is decent. So one of these days I will do a movie on my reviews on my thoughts of those three movies, but he did okay. Okay, David did okay with that one. For this movie, you know, now that I see it, I love it. Okay, I can tell you, definitely the best movie for me for 2013. Does that mean that it's the best movie this year? Well, we still have another half a year to go. So that being said, I can tell you I like it a lot more than Iron Man 3. First and foremost, the score, the soundtrack of this movie is phenomenal. I mean, if you watch the trailers enough, you hear the beautiful music, right? And I can say that throughout the movie, the music is just perfect. It's almost every scene, the build up is just great. I mean, hats off. I mean, I believe it is the same team that worked on the music for the Dark Knight trilogy. So, you know, it's fantastic. It's just one of those few movie soundtrack that I would not mind getting. You know, I got over the years, you know, I have buy a few movie soundtracks just because I love the music, like Tron, The Dark Knight, but it's very seldom that I want to go out there want to go out and buy the movie soundtrack because it was not memorable. But the soundtrack of this movie was fantastic. Okay, next we can move on to the movies. I absolutely love the way it was shot as far as the non-linear storyline. I'm sure you have heard or read some reviews of people complaining that it's disjointed and, oh, you know, they don't like the jumping back and forth between the present and the past and all that stuff, and I disagree wholeheartedly because you know, you're talking about a movie, an introduction of a character from the time he was born until he was a grown man. So if it was shown in a linear process, it would be, I don't know about you, but I prefer not to see a movie where it was a baby and then they flash forward 5 years and say 5 years later, and then they flash forward 10 years and say now 15 years later. No. Maybe there's other way to do a linear storyline with this kind of time span of like 30 plus years of Kal-El, but I like the way that they brought that they tell the story. You know, they have flashback of certain scenes that I felt was appropriate to give you a better understanding of the motive or the decision that Superman is making at that moment, or what influenced him. So I thought that was very well done. I have zero complaint of the methods that Zack Snyder did with the storytelling. Next would be the characters. I have heard and read some reviews where people was complaining that there was no chemistry with Amy Adams and Kevin Costner role, and Diane Lane role was kind of like forgettable. I don't know what those people was watching, but I thought I have no complaint on any of the characters. Okay, I thought it was well done. I thought, you know, there was a lot of chemistry for me. You know, I felt the chemistry between Superman and Lois Lane. So I didn't have a problem with any of the acting in this movie. You know, hats off to Cavill for the role. I think he did fantastic. I love it. Compared to the last Superman movie, head and shoulder over the other actor. But that's maybe because the script of the other movie, you know, was not as good. But so, you know, here you have, so far I gave it a thumbs up for the story. I gave it a thumbs up for the acting and the actors involved. And you know, there was quite many emotional moment in this movie that really grasped me. You know, if you watch any of my videos on movie review or movie rambling before, you know, I'm a softie, a big softie, as well as, you know, I like movies that you know, have some kind of good emotional impact. You know, and for me, this movie had all of those things. There was quite many moments where I feel for Kal-El, I feel for his father, I feel for, you know, all the characters, and you know, the emotional part of this movie I felt was perfect. Okay, I not once did I felt that it was awkward. You know, sometimes when you watch a movie and you see an emotional scene and it just didn't work and you kind of cringe. That is how I felt about Iron Man 3. Okay, uh, my problem with Iron Man 3 is all of the scenes with Robert Downey Jr. with his post-traumatic syndrome issues. That was just so forced on. And I like Robert Downey Jr., but my God, none of those scenes worked for me. It was bad, in my opinion. Okay? Whenever, if there was a bad part in Iron Man 3, I would say for sure it's just about every scene where he's freaking out with his post-traumatic. It's not believable, not for me. Not that I don't think it's a good idea to include that kind of element in Iron Man 3. For some reason, his acting and those scenes did not work for me. Okay, back to the emotional scene of Man of Steel. I think it was fantastic. I think it was appropriate, and each time that they lead me into that scene, I was okay. You know, I eased into those scenes and they were believable, they were heartfelt, and I liked it. For sure, I think even if you heard and read all the reviews so far, most people thought the action scene was great. They are. You know, some people complain that it's just too much. I don't think so. I felt that it was appropriate. I didn't think it was like outlandish. Some people complained that, oh my God, the destruction was just crazy, millions of people die, all that stuff. I'm just like, it fit in the storyline. Okay, I can't talk about more without giving away any spoilers, but all of that destruction play into the necessity of it because of the storyline. Okay, it's no different than any other movie like Independence Day, where they especially come and trying to blow up the earth or take over the earth. You know, so I don't understand the people that sit there and say, oh my God, you know, how can they do this to a movie, and how can they be so insensitive to the destruction and killing of all these people? That's part of the story about the villain, his motive. You know, I mean, I think just like a great movie, you need a great villain, and no doubt Zod in this movie was great. I can't believe the bad reviews that people are giving Shannon, the actor that plays Zod. He was fantastic. Oh my God! Just like the character that played the villain in the last Star Trek movie, Into Darkness. You know what make that villain great as well as Zod great is they are badass, but they believe in what they are doing is the right thing. You know, they were just not evil. It's not. I never care for villains that just evil because I'm evil. Okay, if I want that kind of villain, I watch uh, you know the comedy with the guy say I'm Doctor Evil. You know, it's silly to be just evil for the sake of being evil. Okay? That fit in a comedy. But when you have a villain that strongly believe in his conviction that what he's doing is for the good of his people, then you almost have to admire him for his conviction to go through with what he wants to do, regardless of what we think is wrong or not. Okay, he's just not pure evil. He's a man that believes in something. He has something to believe in. So in that sense, I really thought Zod for this movie was so much better than Zod in the second Superman movie. Oh, that was a cartoon, for God's sake. I don't care what people say about that Zod in the previous movie, but it was okay, but it was like a comic book cartoon. As far as that villain is concerned, this Zod is much better in my opinion. I had a lot of good thing to say too about his general. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. I think the last name is Trau. She's German. I think the only other movie that she's in that I saw was Pandorum. And that was not a great movie either. But I thought she was one of the few bright spots in that movie. I remember watching that movie and said, "Wow, who is this actress? You know, she's beautiful, and she was a badass. You know, she had the physicality to do action." So it was a surprise to me to find out that she was in this movie and she played General Zod. You know, next in line, and her fight scenes and her dialogue was fantastic. Hats off to her. You know, I think hats off to the casting. I thought everybody was cast just perfectly. Is it a perfect movie? There's no such thing. Okay, no such thing. But did I enjoy it immensely? Absolutely. And I think for all the complaints that I read about this is not the Superman that I grow up with, or you know, this is not Christopher Reeve, or the Superman is too dark. Well, I understand where, if you're a fan of Superman, the comic books for the last 30, 40, 50 years, maybe you don't like this reincarnation of Superman. But if you are not a fan of Superman, I think you will like this movie, because if you don't care for the Superman, the comic book, you might enjoy this one. You know, all the people that say that this Superman is darker, no. I think all those that complain that Christopher Nolan and David Goyer make this Superman darker, I don't think that's a correct description. I think they make this Superman much more relatable. You know, and the most beautiful thing about this movie, the overall theme, is acceptance. You know, I can't go into more or deeper without spoiling it, but at least for me, what's moving and touching about the general theme of this movie was acceptance. And I think it works in many levels as far as Superman accepting his differences, accepting the responsibility of his power, and then us, humanity, accepting him as something that will not harm us. So the overall theme of acceptance is very powerful, and I think that's a message that may be lost for many people that didn't like the movie. It's just my guess. I don't know. I have heard 2 or 3 hours of reviews on YouTube from many movie review website, and I hear all kind of people complaining about how they don't like so many different things about the movie. And oh well, what can I say? All I can say is I enjoyed it, and this is the first movie this year that I will definitely go see again in the theater. I will pay money again to go see it. It's that good for me. So I hope this review give you more insight into the overall movies. Since I can't give any spoiler, hopefully you will go see it and decide for yourself if this is a good movie or not.